Hello everybody, Mr. Pilgrim here, coming at you with the second video in our Platinum Trophy Guide for Morbid and the Lords of Ire. Now in the first video we'd gone through the entirety of Rimehold and fought our first Acolyte. Now here you can see I'm at the very end. So first things first is we're going to head back to the Hall of Redemption and do some side quests. Now, once back here, you'll talk to Thalos. He'll then give you the next area that you're going to be going to. You can then come downstairs here, and we can talk to Professor Maximus. He will give us a weapon for our reward for defeating Grom, and then he'll give us our next one. Now, from here, we can come down here into this cellar-like area, and off to the right over here is where we will find tloi, the infuser.
Anyway, I like to think in short.
Basically, what he allows you to do is he allows you to infuse runes that you've equipped into your weapon. So if you come over here into the menu and look at your weapons, you can see how many runes you can equip on the right side of them. Now, runes, as I'll show you now, have a negative and a positive. The positive is definitely more than the negative. So basically, you can go for whatever. Like if you want to have more damage but less speed on two of them, but then want to just basically get that speed back up and keep your damage, that's fine. Or if you want to have more agility, that way your weapons use less stamina. Or if you want to have more impact, then that works too. As you'll see right here, what I'm going to do is go for more damage, speed, and impact, as I feel like agility is pretty fine on the Sword of Yura. So now there is a trophy related to this, so just keep that in mind. You will have to at least infuse this all the way up to 3 stars, as you'll see, but for now we don't have enough runes to do that. But from here we can also go back and talk to Jan, so we'll have to go upstairs. Now do note, the further into the game you get, the more open the Hall of Redemption will become. And then as well, you'll notice over here, in this area, there's a clock tower just above tloi. And then over here, I'll show you another important NPC coming up, up this ladder here. Now also, while we're up here, we'll be able to grab our next upgrade to our healing items. So before heading across onto that ladder, if you take a left here and then follow this around, you'll find a new Cardinor shard. All of these shards upgrade your healing amount. So do be careful not to accidentally fall off and die while up here. It is a bit annoying, but we're almost done. So from here you'll see this person across from us. So you'll have to just walk across the beams. And basically all of the items that you picked up, the items from callback to the first game, you'll give these all to this lady here, Hag of the Hall. Now you get nothing for right now, but just do note that it is tied to a trophy, as well as filling out the Morbid Menagerie and doing all of the main stuff. So from here you can do a run and roll down, or if you don't want to do that, you can just take the long way. Either or works. But just like in the first area, I'll probably try and do a couple things extra in the second area that we're going to go to, Dunghaven. First and foremost, I'll try and show off all of the new enemies so you guys can kind of learn them, or if you want to learn them on your own, that's perfectly fine. But the last thing we have to do here is come and talk to Jan. I'm just going to drop down. Here we can give him that Tome of Insight we got at the end of Rimehold. Now I'm going to unlock my second slot and then just increase my health. Now this third one is not really great for right now, but it will be useful whenever it comes to a trophy later on, but for now we're just going to focus on clearing the game. So now if we head back to our resting spot, we can travel to the next area, Dunghaven. Now, like always, I'm just going to mainly try and go through and show you guys any new enemy types, and then all of the important items to grab along the way, mainly just weapons, tomes, stuff like that. I'll try and skip the non-important items if I can. But as you can see, now we can travel. Oh, gotta talk to Phallus again. There we go. Now we can go to Dunghaven. There we go. Alright, so starting off here in Dunghaven, like in the first area, Rimehold, you don't automatically get the trophy for discovering the area, but we'll eventually get that, so don't worry. So the first enemy to show off here is this guy right here, as you'll see. Now he has a charge attack that he can do if he's a distance away from you, so just keep that in mind. This attack right here is probably the most effective attack he has, and do note that it can also shock and stun enemies around him. But he's not too difficult. Now once you do your first critical attack on him, the creature inside the cage will start eating its way into him and cause him to explode. I'm not entirely sure what that's all about. But yeah, that is the newest enemy. Now I'm going to start from here and show you guys where to go and all that. Alright, so coming off to the right here in the back, over there, you will find a rune guarded by 2 slugs. They're not too tough. You just stick to the sides of them and they're fine, similar to like the birds. Then coming up here and coming across, over here in the back you'll find some poison shroom. Then coming up here and across, off to the left you'll find a key item that you can give to a toes, right here. This will allow you to basically get more from your infusions. Now following this path up, you'll just keep going up, up, up. As you'll see, we're almost there. You can kind of make out the temple in the distance. But once you get to this spot around right here, the Rotten Reservoir, is when you will get the trophy for discovering Dunghaven. Alright, now to immediately show off the next enemy here, we have this big guy, as you'll see. He does have a 3-piece combo that you can deal some damage to. He has this attack right here. Do be careful not to stand next to him when he does that attack, as that will cause your sanity meter to drastically drain. But do note that these guys do give a decent amount of XP, so if you really want to farm him for XP, you can. But I'll also show off the slugs now. If you come over here, as you'll see, here's 3 of them. As you see, they have a projectile attack. As you'll see, they're not too bad if you just kind of try and play around them. And over here you can find another rune. Now from here, if we head on up here, and over here, just along the main path, here we have our next actual main enemy to show off. These guys, I have yet to perfect how to basically parry them. But as you see, they have kind of a thrusting attack, or they'll try and push you, as you'll see. They have a slam down, or they have a thrust with the end of their spear, as you'll see. Now do note that most of these enemies on their own aren't difficult, but when you have to fight multiple of them, it is a bit tricky, as they are a lot harder to parry in my opinion. But we're going to be starting from here and going forward. Alright, so the best path through this area is to come down here off to the right. You'll have to fight another enemy type that's similar to the mini-boss Rom that we fought in the previous area. Coming up here you can find this and get some new runes. Then coming back over here through the terrible water, you'll find another rune. Then over here, as you'll see, another rune. They're just handing them out like candy right now. Now from here you're just going to follow this staircase up. Then what you actually want to do is you want to drop down right here, follow this around. Here you'll find a rune and your first weapon of the area, the Star of the Decadent. Now we can just head back. Do be careful of the exploding pods on this staircase here. Then coming off to the right here, we'll have this staircase. Following this up, and just on our right is our next shrine, and we've made it to the Favela Square. Here you'll also get your next upgrade and a new Cardinor Shard. So I'm going to start from here and show you guys the massive area that is the favela that we're going to be going through. Alright, starting here from the Favela Square, we're going to be following the only path that we can take, heading up. Off to the right here in this back corner, you can find another rune. From here, it's best to come forward and take out the first of the giant four-legged red enemies. I forget the name. Then you come here off to the left, and there'll be one waiting to ambush you here with a rune behind it. Back over here, you can find some big fat grubs. Coming into here in this area, it's best to first immediately come up and deal with all the enemies up top. So just come around and just slowly make your way around. There are projectile throwing enemies, so do be wary of that. But then over here you'll have your first rune holder. Then off to the right over here, be careful, you can fall down. You'll have another rune that you can grab. Then from here, actually what you want to do is drop down here. And over here in this little alcove in the back here, you'll find a new Tome of Insight. Now this one is probably really important to grab, so don't miss it. Basically, it's one that allows you to have way more impact with your strikes. Now if we continue along clockwise, we'll end up back at the previous area, as you'll see. And then we'll be up here. Sorry about the loading. And you'll have this nice tree that isn't ruined by anything. And here's where I'm going to show off the next enemy type, as you'll see. This guy. This guy likes to cause insanity. As you'll see, every hit does he's not doing the attack I'm normally used to. Here it is. That's the attack. When he starts screaming, your sanity meter will go down drastically. You can iframe it. But just keep that in mind. Now you can basically just try and be super aggressive with this attack, or this enemy type. Now if your sanity meter does get too low, I'm not sure if it'll do it or not. No, it's not quite there. But as you'll see, your world gets affected quite differently. You can simply use a calming capsule, and this will restore your sanity to normal. But yeah, there is actually going to be a mini-boss that is that enemy type that I'll show later on. But for now, we're going to be starting from this point going forward. Alright, so from here you have one path to take, and that's climbing up this ladder here. You can climb ladders faster by using the sprint. So from here it's pretty straightforward. You just come down, fight along some enemies. We'll have a shortcut here on the right will eventually open up. But best way to go through this area, from my opinion, is just come into this area here, climb up this ladder. There is a guy in this little hut. Then you just start taking out all the enemies, just working your way around. Now off here on the right you'll have an area you can drop down onto for some lightning shroom. In the back here you'll have a putrid limb, which is just eh. But if we come back out into this area, we can come up here into the main spot. We'll grab a rune. Coming off here over to the left, as you can see, there's not too much in this area. But following this around, you'll be forced to have to fight one of the one enemy. I keep forgetting the name. It's red on all fours. And then you can finally climb up the ladder after defeating it, and there are 3 enemies up here that throw items at you. From here, like I said, come up here, you can find a specter slug. Then over here you have a shortcut down here. Coming through into this area here, you'll have 2 of the elephant guys. They're not too tough. As you'll see, coming into this area, you have a bunch of exploding enemies. Nothing too hard to deal with. You can use your gun to instantly make them explode and get a bullet back. Coming down here, you'll have one more of the 4-legged enemies, as you'll see. Here we'll enter what looks like a giant bazaar, I guess. Have another specter slug. Following this forward, nothing too crazy as we're heading down. In here, we can come over here and grab a rune. Here we'll meet Bull, another important guy. Then coming out here, there's not really anything on the right, as you'll see. But here we have our first major shortcut back to the favela square. As you can see. Ta-da! So now we're going to be going inside of the bazaar. Now, entering the bazaar, if we actually stick to the right, it is the best path to take. You'll follow this back around and there'll be a ladder. This will lead to the upper area. Now do note there are some of the electric enemies and the elephant guys, so just be careful. So coming up here, we're going to follow this around. And just off to the right here, we'll find some ice shrooms. But more importantly, if we come and destroy this, we'll actually get our next weapon, the Mastodon Broad Axe. Then from here, if we come down, right next to this calming capsule, you'll see there's an item. If you run and roll, you can make it over to grab our next Tome of Insight that is hidden. Pretty sneaky. But now if we drop down and come over here off to the right, just before the big door, we'll find an adrenal gland. And then just over here, we'll find 2 runes. Now from here, the main thing is up here. Here we have our mini-boss of the area. You'd think from this it'd be the actual boss, but no. But for now, I'm going to show you guys what it's like when I defeat it without taking any damage. Now, as you could see, that boss was pretty much same to the one normal enemy type, with just probably some small exceptions, and the enemies that spawn out of it after defeated. Now from here, just off to the right is a shortcut, and then if we head off to the left here, we can run through this pretty straightforward path to the next area. Coming down here all the way down, just over here we can find a rune. Now surprisingly, this area doesn't have that much to find. Coming off here over to the right, as you'll see, you can just drop down. Nothing, just normal enemies, you know. Then you'll have this giant open pathway with some enemies on the left hand that you can fight and deal with. Then from here you can find your next save point right here. Now from here, we're just going to follow the path that I take. This will lead you to the most items of importance, like runes, weapons, things like that. So starting off here, you're just going to want to come off to the right over here. Drop down, grab this rune. Then you can come just across from it and grab another rune. Then over here on the right, there is a dock with a, I wouldn't say mini-boss, but it's one of the rotten enemies. Here on the pier you can find a rune and some fire shrooms. Now this next section is more or less pretty straightforward. It's just a dock that you have to run through. Nothing too crazy. Just be careful not to fall. Coming across here, as you can see, Coming up here, we can grab a grub worm, or big fat grub. Off here, if you turn around and come back up, you can find a rune. Then we're going to head to the left. Coming down here and up. Before heading up to the left, if you come off to the right, you'll find a new weapon, the Halberd of Yore, and a rune. Now from here we can head on up to the left and up this ladder. Now if you immediately take this left, you'll find more shrooms, poison, fire, lightning, ice. Take your pick. Coming over here, found some more poison shrooms. Continuing on up, we have the next ladder to climb, and this will be the longest one. But now we'll be at the palace courtyard, as you can see here. Here's our next safe area. Alright, so from here you're just going to follow the path that I take through the courtyard. There are some enemies to fight and deal with, but don't worry. It's not too terrible in this first area. Coming up here to the right, or if you head off to the left, you can find some items. And then coming here into the actual courtyard is probably the toughest fight you'll have so far, as it's at least 7 or so enemies that are charging at you. So first and foremost, it's best to come up and deal with the 2 throwing enemies on these side areas, then slowly try and take off the rest. But once that is done, you can finally enter the palace. Once inside, as you'll see, there's not too much to do, but you can come off to the right here, heading on down. Here on the left, just right here, you'll find a Molder's Toolkit, in case you didn't already find one. There's nothing else in the actual cells themselves. Here you have your next shrine, and here on the left is our next weapon that we can obtain. And on the right over here is one more thing, a big fat grub. Now we are going to take on our next acolyte. So I'm basically just going to show you me beating it without taking any damage. So yeah. Alright, so once you've finally defeated the second acolyte of the game, we can now exit through the gate and head up the right and be done with Dunghaven. Now we have a couple of things we're going to grab while we're up here in the watch area. Here we have our next weapon to grab, the Electro Blader. Here we have our next item to give to the hag, the Crown of Regret. Here we have some runes, and here we have a Cosm Stone, which I'll go into detail about in the next video. And coming back in here, right here, we have our next shrine. But that is going to do it for this video. Like always, I do hope that this has been helpful or informative in any way, shape, or form. And as always, I've been Mr. Pilgrim, and I'll see you all in the next one.